You know, ladies and gentlemen, you might have seen two of the premier families in the wrestling world disintegrate before our very eyes. But tonight, in prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the only platform where all wrestling matters, I talk with someone right now who very well is a part of the premier wrestling family in our entire circuit today, not just in the backyard and the underground. I'm talking about the prophecy, and boy, has the prophecy laid waste to nearly everybody in Tennessee backyard wrestling lately. My buddy, Alan Michaels. Boy, I don't know if I should have wore this shirt going in here to tonight's show, but I didn't have any other shirt to wear, and I was trying to, at the very least, show my support for Tennessee backyard wrestling. Hopefully, Beast and Jay Wild don't strike me down like they did to Alan Michaels. Hopefully, they give me a pass. We'll talk about, though, what happened at Rebellion. We'll get you ready for Rampage 167, which is going to be here up very soon. But we're also going to talk with our guest here tonight, who has had a really interesting journey in the backyard and the underground wrestling circuit. He has wrestled a who's who of people. And he's also this year, arguably, figuratively and literally, maybe the workhorse of Tennessee backyard wrestling. And you might be wondering, how could I say that? Well, you're going to find out because I'm going to put some matches up on the screen. I'm going to get a chance to share his story, and I'm going to talk about who knows whatever else is on his mind. And hopefully, like I said, he doesn't strike me with his moveset. And some guys, I don't know, the likes of Russell Cooper have found that out. The likes of Gage Flair, the Nature Boy, the Woo Horse himself have found that out. And how about that guy even? Jack Delta found that out once upon a time. James Taylor, I could bring that up. Maybe I won't. Maybe I will. He found that out once upon a time. And Russell Cooper, the world champion, most recently found that out. And Alan Michaels has definitely found that out. And Roddy Alpha. How about this guy, D'Angelo the Flame, everybody talks about? I'm sure I'll talk about all that. I'll talk about the family. I'll talk about going from Max Chaos to Chaotic. You will definitely not want to miss this one. After going somewhere from SummerSlam, we can only go up from here. And ladies and gentlemen, even though you got a chance to see him for the first time for a few minutes last week on Sportswire Radio, it's turn to give his side of the story on things and more. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know that so many of his peers in Tennessee backyard wrestling have gotten this introduction, and especially since Beast once upon a time got this introduction, it is time to give him that introduction in prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the only platform where all wrestling matters in Tennessee backyard wrestling, the only wrestling company in our Hall of Fame. And the backyard and the underground wrestling circuit has proven time and time again why they're at the center of it. It is now time to give our guest that introduction that he deserves. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get right to it in prime time. So with Without further ado, here on the Sports Report, number one. Sports show from the first family of all of wrestling, a three-time Intercontinental Champion in TBW, one-time U.S. Champion. Now the man that, simply put, is the workhorse of Tennessee backyard wrestling. From the prophecy, his name is My friend, how are you?
Good. How about you?
Ask me after we do the interview with my voice because each and every time I do this, I'm wondering either I'm going to have a heart attack on air for the long intros or my voice is going to go out. But that's obviously here nor there. You might be the workhorse. Some people call me the Iron Man. It doesn't matter, all of it here. But first of all, it is an absolute honor to have you. I know you sort of made a cameo here last week on the air, but now I want to give you your side of the story and really kind of get a chance to dive into Kaotic and everything else. But I'll kind of start with current events here for those that are listening and watching here on Sportswire Radio in prime time, the brightest lights, the biggest stage, the only platform where all wrestling matters. I'll ask you, I mean, Kaotic, what does it mean to be a part of the premier family, not just in the backyard and the underground, but of all of wrestling in the prophecy, especially after the way Rebellion ended?
See, it's been exhilarating being in the family, but me and he who shall not be named have a little bit of animosity between each other right now. He knows it, I know it. Everyone should know it. Everyone should see it. Everyone should believe it. And I mean, the family was going good at one point and then kind of took a turn when I kind of joined into it.
Well, why do you say that for? Because on the surface, it seems like you guys have the most success of anybody right now. I mean, I'm curious for the audience, and why would you kind of say that?
You see, the family is supposed to help, but this family, they'll help when it only benefits themselves. You see, he who shall not be named got to be the world heavyweight champion and still is the TBW world heavyweight champion. And that's mainly because of me. You see, I was the one that beaten down Russell Cooper. I was the one that beaten down Andrew Clay.
Yes, the Hangman Andrew Clay, yes.
But he shook Andrew Clay's hand and took an easy win against Russell Cooper. You see,
Well,
it's...
but win's a win, though. I mean, wouldn't you, from your vantage point, be happy about those things? I mean, you kind of basically paved the way for the success. I mean, I'm curious about this for the audience.
Yeah, I can see that, the way that you see it. But the way that I see it is that he used me to get to the top of TBW.
Why do you say that, though? Is that because of what you just elaborated? I mean, you have been a guy that obviously has played a huge role. And I mean, shouldn't you have been doing that? I mean, it is your father after all, right? I mean, shouldn't that be things you should be doing? I mean, talk to us for the audience. It's a lot to think about. I know it's very hard. It's difficult, and it's hard to process just, these things here because you're getting a chance to talk here. It's interesting, Kaotic, because you're getting a chance to really have your side of the story. We got a chance to hear from Beast about a month or so ago, and he painted this picture, this rosy picture about the prophecy, and everybody should get out of the way. And he did kind of provide a warning shot to the likes of Alan Michaels and Russell Cooper, basically said Russell Cooper shouldn't come back. And I mean, so you would obviously then, from what you're telling me, it sounds like a different perspective than Beast. And let me ask you then this question, because Beast, we know, made that arrangement. He was obviously in cahoots with your father for a long period of time. And how do you feel about the current state of the prophecy then?
I mean, it's not what I feel about the prophecy. I mean, it's more about what the fans feel about the prophecy and people that watch us. And
you guys are dominant, though. I mean, that's what I think the fans think. I mean, the fans think I mean, listen, I think it was said, correct me if I'm wrong, it was said after Jay Wild had defeated Russell Cooper to win the TBW World Heavyweight Championship. We are entering in dark days, dark times in Tennessee backyard wrestling. We opened things up. The first segment after Jay Wild had won the world title, we were shown this video to open up Rampage, and I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. I mean, so I guess what you really would want to elaborate is that from the fan side of it is that I think everybody's kind of in uncharted territory. I mean, we've seen a lot of world champions in TBW history, but I don't think we've seen anything like this. And I don't even dare say it, Mr. Chaotic. I don't think we've seen a world champion like this ever in the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit. So I think the fans are still kind of figuring that out. I mean, because we are in uncharted territory. And again, we're in dark days pretty much. I think that's where we're at. And I think obviously maybe you're trying to process that more or less. I think maybe that's to be continued. I mean, maybe that's the better way to look at it almost. Maybe it is to be continued. And I mean, I guess you might want to say, do you feel that things could have been handled differently?
Yeah, 110%. I mean, you see, if I'll go on a rant for a little bit, but you see, Beast, he can do anything wrong and not get no repercussions for it. But you see, me, I'm getting, grabbed by the face. I'm getting pushed around.
You had to wrestle Jay Wild, even the man you won't speak of. You had to wrestle him this season.
Yep. That was something. Because after he beat me, he kind of beat me in a way that a child shouldn't be beat. I'm the son of the he who shall not be named. But
well, I wouldn't know what that's like. I mean, I wasn't obviously beaten as a child like that, and I certainly wouldn't hope that anybody would be beat like that. But I guess you could say that it's something that you think about a lot. Is that a fair statement for me to at least bring up? And I could certainly see why the lights are, dark, because maybe this is hard to process today. Maybe this is a lot. Maybe this is just, something that is difficult to talk about here on air. I mean, I realize that, we are in prime time. We are in the brightest lights on the biggest stage here on Sportswire Radio. And you've seen so many of your colleagues and even Beast come on here, and Beast especially painted this rosy picture about everything in the prophecy. And I guess maybe this is hard to talk about. Maybe that's what it is, and that's understandable. I mean, maybe the best thing you're actually saying is not so much, because guys come on here sometimes and they say too much and it kind of backfires on them.
Yeah.
You can look at it from that standpoint. I mean, you can look at it from those things. And it's interesting, though. Anniversary, we saw maybe the greatest show in the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit's history. We saw all the success, 4,000 plus views. And yet you have a rather view that I guess maybe most people would be surprised to hear, but maybe you know it better than anybody else. And maybe that's why you have that opinion. Let me come back. I'll come back to some of that in a second. Let me ask you, though, this question. I brought this up in my introduction of you. I had said that you were basically the workhorse of Tennessee backyard wrestling this season. You wrestled all these different guys. Andrew Clay came up, and Russell Cooper, certainly. Gage Flair, the Intercontinental Champion. You've wrestled the man you won't speak of, Roddy Alpha, D'Angelo LaFlame. You've wrestled, some really big names, some really heavy hitters, not just in TBW, but in our circuit. Do you feel like, in a way, that you are the workhorse of Tennessee backyard wrestling?
See, yeah, in a way. I can see that I am the workhorse of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, but I'll give my credit where credit's due to Gage Flair. You know, he is the woo horse of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. So, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in that talks of it, yeah. I can see that.
But you've wrestled, and again, Gage Flair has been a phenomenal champion. I mean, he found ways even to retain at Rebellion. I won't even ask you your perspective on that whole bizarre thing with J Kloss refereeing. I won't even go into that. But I mean, you've wrestled though, guy after guy, and you've wrestled guys that don't even work in TBW, and you've put on bangers out there. That's kind of the reason why I had asked you that question, if you had kind of thought about that. We were talking about this off the air a little bit, and you were like, I hadn't thought about that because I had brought this up, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure somebody can correct me on this. I think you might have wrestled, if not the second or the most matches in TBW this year. I mean, that's why I would say statistically, you are kind of like the workhorse in TBW.
Oh. I didn't think about that, yeah.
No, that's kind of part as to why. No, I think that's an interest, because you look at it and say, well, some guys come on here and you're like, well, okay, they've wrestled and they've wrestled and such, and I'm actually going to put a match up here on the screen to kind of dial things back up in a minute and kind of get your thoughts on that. But let me get to some comments. I know a lot of people want to say hello and join the conversation, so let's get to that. Mac 10 says, no, not everyone. Well, I think he's referring to the intro. Kaotic needs a haircut. I disagree. I don't think you need a haircut. I think you just need to go out there and keep doing what you're doing in the ring. But thank you, Pro Wrestling Omega. And if you haven't yet, hit the sub button for TBW. I'm going to put TBW's link up here shortly. Also, go follow Mr. Kaotic. I have his social media. I'm going to put up right here shortly. And hit the sub button for me because I'm closing in on 1,000 subscribers. I'm almost there, and I need your help. And I'm on TikTok now, by the way. I'm actually doing really well on TikTok. I have almost 200 followers in like 6 weeks, and I'm getting a lot of views on that. So thank you for that. Zilla is kind of the resident, I guess, hello and hey and everybody. Yeah, Zilla's Zilla. To kind of break the fourth wall, Zilla. So I want to say hello to my friend Vegas Storm, all the way in Georgia out there near Atlanta. Storm is in the house. Sub FAPW all wrestling matters. I think he meant to say all wrestling, but I'll have Andre and Emily in your chair, 7:00 Eastern time tomorrow. Yes, we respect Mac 10. Yes, but we have Kaotic here. But yes, we do respect Mac 10. We love our landlord of Sportswire Radio. And Hillbilly Tilly wants to say hello, of course. And the man that I'm wearing a shirt of, he does want to say this, though. It's not over. What does that mean? I mean, I should probably put that up on the screen. I actually had something else linked up, but I'll actually maybe remind Mr. Michaels, my buddy. I can do this because he's my buddy, and he did give me this shirt to wear because, after all, I guess he did want to see your reaction toward it. But obviously, what do you think Mr. Michaels means by that, my buddy Alan Michaels?
The Jesus freak. 999 on his side, while we have 666 on ours. You see, what he's talking about is what happened after episode 160.
How about this, by the way? I mean, listen, let's just go out and break the fourth wall for a second. What Jay Wild did here, I think Alan and I can correct me on this. I spoke with Alan, off the air, and I was like, dude, like, what happened there?
Ain't no telling.
Well, that's a good point. That's why we're on the air and off the air. But, he says it's not over, but after what happened after the match, something tells me that Mr. Michaels maybe should not take the heat of Russell Cooper and just maybe take the rest of the summer off in TBW. What do you think on that?
I completely agree. I mean, after what we done to Alan Michaels, he shouldn't even be standing. He shouldn't even be texting into this chat at all.
That's probably why he didn't come on Sportswire last night, because, he obviously, was so distraught about the fact you were coming on here, and he was so distraught that I have his shirt on. He knew you were coming on, and maybe that's why, he was like, well, maybe that's why I can't be here and such.
Probably.
But yeah, we're about to watch this beatdown, and it was pretty brutal. And, it definitely, I wouldn't want to be instill that man that shall name anonymous his crosshairs, more or less. And then there you come there, and you got the hair tied back and such, and you do what you kind of just alluded upon here, and then we see Mr. Beast, coming out, and he's kind of been the muscle of the group. He's been the man that I guess all along knew what was best for business, and he just comes in. And I do want to get to the match I want to talk about with you in a second. I do have some more comments. Hang on tight, everybody. We are here with Kaotic. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice, figuratively and literally, where all wrestling matters. And it is not over on Sportzwire Radio right now because Alan Michaels is about to get a beatdown. Was this, I think the question I'll ask you, though, was this too much? Did Alan Michaels deserve this? Or
Yes.
What do you think? He did.
Alan Michaels 100% deserves this. He put his nose into someone else's business that he shouldn't have. And that would be, the ringleader, Russell Cooper.
True, because after all, Alan Michaels was trying to make a name for himself. He was trying to be a trendsetter. He was trying to stay trendy, and he was kind of mocking you guys a little bit. He was, maybe that victory over that man that shall name anonymous, we won't name here, maybe that victory weeks ago, maybe that backfired, because after all, wasn't Miss sprayed in his spit in his face, and then he had food poisoning, and then he featured this. It almost kind of tells you sometimes, right, in life, that the tea leaves, if you read them, would say, maybe it's time, maybe he should focus on, I don't know, picking football games, or maybe doing Twitch streams where he seems to be playing the new college football 25. If he has the strength to do those things. I don't know if he has the strength anymore to do that, but as you could see there, that those aren't fresh flowers. Those are definitely flowers when they're about to die. And it kind of seems to mark his doing, more or less. Well, we'll see that, but I will sort of ask you about this, and I'll come back to it. Let me take this off the screen for a second because I want to go and put up something while I would think you'll get a better opinion on. So I'll come back to that. Let me get to some more comments here. First of all, this man here, who I know is going to be a topic later on, I despise the Prophet Jay Wild, and if I was to ever see him again, he will have all hell to pay. But after what I just saw with Alan Michaels, is James Taylor, would that be a wise move on his part, or he should focus on something else? I mean, because that was, what I just saw Mr. Michaels go through. And how about Cooper at anniversary? I mean, I don't even know why Cooper. I think I had Beast right on after Jay Wild had won the title, and Cooper just seemed not to listen to the doctor's advice, and he came back, and he came back, but he's not getting a title shot anytime soon. And I don't know whether it's James Taylor or anybody else out there if I would want to go and mess with that man that you won't name here live. We'll move on here. Fair enough. Thank you for confirming. Zilla wants to respect the trendsetter. That's very nice of Zilla, but I want to get actually a better perspective on something, because I want to come back to something, because you've actually wrestled. I want to go back to the workhorse thing for a second, because you've actually wrestled some really, really important people. And one of those people is a huge topic on this platform. And he's one of the guys that I think a lot of people really revere right now in our circuit. He's kind of our darling. He's kind of almost like the man you wrestled last year, kind of this year's version of it. And I'm talking about none other than Mr. D'Angelo the Flame. I'm sure you have probably a little bit of perspective here on this. And I was curious for the audience, what was it like wrestling D'Angelo the Flame?
It was actually really, really fun. I mean, like D'Angelo the Flame, he's very, very talented. I'll give it to him.
Oh, I know. I'm well aware. I've watched quite a bit of him.
And like everybody else has said, dude's massively tall.
I know. He's probably like 6'4", right? About 6'3", 6'4".
Close to it. But yeah, I'll give all my props to D'Angelo the Flame. Even though I beat him, I'll still give my props to him, 100%.
I'm curious on this. You've wrestled a lot of great opponents in your time. When you wrestle a guy as tall as LaFlame, what do you do to be able to compensate for his size advantage? I'm curious on that for the audience.
Really just I targeted his legs in this match, and then I got him to where he was in the corner, and I done a shotgun drop kick. I mean, I just took him down to my level.
When you see what he brings to the table, and I know we got a chance to see a little bit of him last season, but I feel like really in the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 months, his stock is really shot up overnight. What do you think, or why that is where we've seen him in so many places? I mean, we obviously got to know him so much in TBW. Obviously, he was the Resurrection Internet Champion up until last week, and we've seen him everywhere: Summer Bash, AWL, NEW, even in Massachusetts, and they're advertising him in Iowa for the IMF, and I'm sure we'll see him in many other places. Why do you think that it's been where he's kind of been this guy that's maybe stepped in the shoes of a Jack Delta? What do you think has made him that kind of guy, more or less?
Really, I'd say his character, the way he really handles himself, the way he handles himself in the ring, the way he gets himself over every time he steps out, anywhere he is. I mean, he puts himself out there more than really anybody that I see, to be honest.
It's interesting because you wrestled last year Jack Delta, and this
Yeah.
year you wrestled D'Angelo LaFlame. And they're obviously the two traveling guys right now. LaFlame has done it this year. Delta's obviously done it, for a long time. There's a handful of guys in this circuit that do that. But what do you think, if any, are similarities or differences between a Delta and a Flame? Because you have the very unique perspective of actually wrestling both guys. And I was trying to think about this before we went on the air. I don't know if you might be the only guy that has wrestled both of them. I was actually trying to think about that. If you're the
Oh,
only guy,
really?
yeah, I think you might be, unless somebody in the chat can correct me. I mean, James obviously wrestled Jack Delta. He would know. He shared a locker room with you, but I think you might be the only guy that's wrestled both LaFlame and Delta. And I was just curious in what are similarities and differences, because these are really the two traveling guys in our circuit at the moment.
Well, obviously the main one, D'Angelo the Flame's taller than Jack Delta. Uh,
Obviously, yes. Yeah, that's no
uh,
question.
but with D'Angelo the Flame, he's more of like the high flying type, while Jack Delta is like strong style, and he relies more on his strength than his speed and his quickness that he obviously can do.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yes, obviously they both have a different style. Jack is more of a traditional mat grappler, physical. D'Angelo, for his size, I mean, I still don't know how he does some of the things. But I think the one similarity I took away from just now that you talked about in watching the matches, I think both guys have the same type of character in the fact that they're both high character guys. They're guys that, at least I've gotten a chance to interview these guys a bunch of times. I've known probably Jack a little longer. D'Angelo, I speak to probably maybe a little more frequently just because of the Resurrection TBW relationship. And I think Sportswire, we've been very fortunate to have had a relationship there. You get a win over them. But I think their characters and how they conduct themselves are probably the biggest similarities. And then we see you here get a victory, and that person that shall name nameless is out there. But how big of a win was that? I mean, I guess now it's an even bigger moment that you're, here about to get a win over Mr. LaFlame. But when you look back, I mean, how big of a win is this for you in your overall career and such?
Uh, really, I mean, I wouldn't say that I got the win over the Flame. Yeah, I got the pin over the Flame, but I didn't destroy him the way that he who shall not be named
Wanted, I know, because we've been through
wanted.
this period, but you
So,
still won. You win to win, and you got to win. And I'll take this off the stage because I think obviously you don't want to talk much about this. So let me pull this back off. I'm trying to come back to some other moments. Okay, so obviously I'll come back to another match, which actually leads me to what I want to talk about next. But while I get a chance to do that, I'd like to make a couple of plugs here. First of all, let me give a big plug to Mr. Kaotic himself. You want to check him out, you can do that here on Instagram. That's his Instagram right there. Please check him out. Go out there and support him. He's won 4 singles championships. He's going to win a lot more. He's also on TikTok, and he's also on a whole number of platforms. You're going to see him coming up here on TBW Rampage 167 as we get the fallout from Rebellion. And boy, a lot to talk about there and some. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice figuratively and literally where all wrestling matters. If you are on sportswireradio.org, I want to thank you very much for tuning in. We're going to be live here shortly also on the Promo Wrestling Federation YouTube page and the Pride Wrestling Federation YouTube page, where why is that important? Well, once upon a time, Kaotic wrestled Jack Delta, which I'm going to get to next. And also, we have a couple of big shows coming up I'd like to plug. We're going to be here tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern time with Andre Anamali. He is the future Atlanta Pro Wrestling Worldwide Universal Champion. I'm also going to be here Monday night after Monday Night Raw. I'm going to be here with Comatose, the triple champion of BTW Wrestling. And I have somebody Tuesday, but I don't remember who I have Tuesday, so you'll have to tune in for that. But if you want to follow Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, I got a great bunch of links I'd like to share with you. TBW 2017, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. Also, Redbubble, they've got some merchandise. I've got some merchandise, the wrong merchandise, but I've still got TBW merchandise at the very least. So go buy merchandise. The best way you can help all of our superstars, all of our wrestling companies, is to buy merchandise. That's important because it allows them to continue to do the great things that they do, whether it's obviously producing these shows, putting them together, so many different things, and it's all Wrestling Matters. And I want to thank our friends in TBW for allowing us to continue to work with the company. I can't thank Josh enough for his support, his friendship over the years. I am very honored to have had them in the Hall of Fame, which means Kaotic is technically a Sportswire Radio Hall of Famer because we inducted the entire TBW roster in the company as a whole into the Hall of Fame. So we'll come back to that here shortly, but I do want to get to something because I have to promote myself, which technically is the PWF, because I do want to ask you about Jack Delta because you wrestled Jack Delta, and I feel like that's something you could talk about because I get the sense that it's a very sensitive situation when it comes to talking about that man that shall name nameless, although I'll come back to him at the end of the show, but I will certainly talk about somebody here very shortly in a second. So before I do that, let me get to some comments here. First of all, here, want to say hello to Mr. Hangman Andrew Clay. And he wants to say this, though, right directly to you, though, Mr. Kaotic. You'll see the light one of these days. What do you think he means by that?
Honestly, I don't know, because there's no light in me, and there will never be any light in me.
So no light, no nothing. And he obviously, he's just maybe giving you bad advice, just like everybody else, right?
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Well, fair enough. Okay. Well, that's, certainly it is what it is. But okay. Well, let me get to a couple more comments. We'll say hello to Silver Wolf. We'll certainly say hello there. What up? Yes. How you doing? Nice to see you. Also, Cameron Cage is in the house. He would like to say how you doing. Now, it's before I actually get to Mr. Delta, I was talking to you off the air, and there are guys that you haven't wrestled. And one of the guys who actually has not been in Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, but we know the relationship between Resi and TBW is Cameron Cage. And Cameron Cage has been one of my favorites on Sportswire. We've had him on, I'd say about 3 or 4 times. He'd probably correct me on it, but that'd be a guy I'd love to see you wrestle, Cameron Cage. You have a thought on guys maybe in Resi or TBW that you haven't wrestled that you would like to wrestle? Because I think Cameron Cage would be one that would be really interesting to see you square off with.
Yeah, there's numerous. I mean, there's Gold Dragon, there's Rage, there's Cameron Cage. I mean, I'm wanting to face Dustin Alexander.
I was going to mention Dustin. Got to mention Dustin.
Ronnie Brady. I mean, there's numerous of them over there.
Well, I'll probably break your character. You'll probably laugh at this. You and Dustin can have a match to see who's got like the biggest flow. Like the flow hair. So like if you think about, I know obviously we'll get back to this stuff, but to break the fourth wall, because Sportswire everybody knows at this point. It's a different ball game. I think you and Dustin should have a match to determine like who has the best hair in the backyard in the underground wrestling. So what do you say on that? I mean, that could be a good match. That could actually be, instead of a world title on the line, instead of, let's say, Hall of Fame, #1 contendership, or who knows, whatever else, ownership at stake. you and Dustin could actually have a match to determine who has the best flow in our circuit. What do you think?
That's something.
That was a funny one. I think at this point we could all kind of put our guards down there and kind of laugh. That's actually a clever match. That would be clever. But I'm sure maybe somebody can book that. Ronnie, Joey Tibbs, Josh. Maybe you guys can figure out the whole next. I understand Rezzy's having another show on the 31st, so who knows? But that'll be a good one. I'm sure I'm going to get some weird reactions from that. But moving on, James Taylor would like to say hello to Cam. I want to say hello to my buddy, Mr. Hardcore, of course, the man who was stood side by side with the legendary Copper Dragon. We know Copper Dragon very well on this platform and in TBW. He helped produce the longest running episodic show on the backyard, the underground wrestling and independent wrestling as we know it in GWC intensity. Good evening, my reverend. I'm glad I am somebody something here. Hello, Chaotic. I will be watching closely. If you or any of your buddies want help or mentorship from a wise demon, Reverend Tom can give you my information. Yes, I can certainly get you in touch with a man, Mr. Hardcore, who he's definitely, let's say, he's been responsible for people like Skrilla and people like Shalance Royale and Fred Yehai, people that have, they've had a pretty successful career in the world of wrestling. So, Mr. Hardcore, I could certainly send you his info when we're off the air. And I'm sure that the general manager of future Atlanta Pro Wrestling would always like to talk to those that come on to Sportswire. Let me get to a couple more comments here. I see the chat starting to heat up here. But Mr. Tilley would like to say, that is why LaFlame has shown up everywhere. The way he conducts himself backstage is the definition of professionalism. He is an asset for any promotion to have on their show. It was pretty much what you were talking about a little while ago.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
And I think that that's really the key in anything is the way you conduct yourself, whether it's, how you say hello to somebody or shake someone's hand or introduce yourself. And I think that Mr. LaFlame is one of those guys, one of the rare breeds in our circuit that everybody thinks very highly of. So I couldn't agree more. And a lot of the AWL guys are very similar. There's a lot of high level of professionalism there from ADT on down in that company. So thank you for that, Mr. Tilley. I want to put the matchup on the screen because, like I said, you have probably the unique distinction. I'm pretty sure of this. Somebody can quote me that has been maybe the only man that has wrestled LaFlame and Delta. So, of course, since I actually own the PWF YouTube page, I have to put up that match between you and now the outsider Jack Delta. Then he was the destructive Jack Delta, who was then, of course, the then PWF Uprising champion. So let me put this up on the screen. I'm going to go like this, and then I'm going to go like this. We're going to move along here shortly to the screen. And there you go. We're going to go right there. I want to get your intro in. All right, so talk to me about, conversely, Jack Delta. You wrestled Jack Delta. I just saw you wrestle D'Angelo LaFlame. I would say about maybe a nine or so month time stamp difference. And just what's it like here wrestling Jack Delta then?
It was actually pretty amusing because, I've known about Jack Delta for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty exciting to actually get a match with Jack Delta. And we put on a banger.
Absolutely. I think I watched it last year, and I've watched it many times because I own the PWF YouTube page. But I always like to run these back with people because as a football fan, I look at these like the Manning cast where, Peyton and Eli, because after all, I'm a terrible broadcaster. I'm a terrible announcer, kind of like Peyton and Eli. They're not really broadcasters either. So I like to put these matches on the screen to kind of, obviously let everybody at ease. And I see Mr. Delta's at ease here. But is that surreal? Everybody knows Jack Delta, right? Guys talk to me all the time. And boy, Jack Delta. I'm like, yeah, but I know a lot of people, but for you who have followed Jack Delta, we know him from EBW, MEBW. We've seen him in, all these major places in our circuit where, he's been a big name. Was that surreal for you to go up and watch somebody you've actually been a fan of?
Yeah. Yeah. That's really all I can say. Yeah.
Did you go into the match differently versus if you were going to wrestle Gage Flair? Gage Flair. You've wrestled him tons of times. or even a James Taylor who you share the locker room with. Do you go into a match with Jack differently versus like other guys you probably know each and every time you go and film the shows and such, that a different like nerve and such?
Yeah, with Jack Delta, I tried being a little more quick with him, but as you can see, him and his grappling,
He's
it
a
got
different
got
style
the best
wrestler.
of me.
Absolutely. Totally different style. LaFlame wants to get on the top rope. LaFlame he's the real raw energy. Jack, on the other hand, he wants to wear you down because he's got a little bit more of a physicality to him. He's more of a big guy. He wants the Rainmaker, the Delta Driver. He wants, to kind of work the tempo. He doesn't want to have a higher pace style. You're more of you and LaFlame or a Roddy Alpha, for example, that's kind of a style you want. It's almost like if you're a football fan and you have a football team that wants to run and gun. They want to go up and down the field and they don't really want to run the ball. They want to kind of throw it and kind of, get the ball moving, and almost kind of like a New Orleans Saints offense over the past decade. You're in LaFlame kind of like that. Jack, on the other hand, is more of like a Northeast cold weather football team, wants to ground and pound. In New York, when the Jets were successful, they would call it ground and pound. Not that the Jets have been really successful much the past 15 years, but the Jets would be an example of that. The Patriots, when they won some of their Super Bowls, Seattle, ground and pound very much. And Jack is kind of that ground and pound. So does that take you off your style? Because I'm watching you a little bit differently than what I saw with LaFlame so far. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, like I had to basically change my whole entire move set just to keep Delta down, and it didn't work. I completely
I
lost
mean,
this match.
it's Jack Delta. He's gonna, obviously he has a style and he's, comfortable in that. And that's, I think where you and D'Angelo work that style, work that similar pace. Even though he's taller, you can compete with his ability to go up the top rope. You can do some of those aerial moves. Whereas with Jack, you're stuck here in the heat, and it looks like it was a very hot day. I think I remember James was telling me about this. It was very hot when you film those shows, but this is the time of year. And, you got some offense here to knock them down a little bit. And I guess you got a chance to work your style in the ring. And, what do you take away in trying to improve your style a little bit from wrestling a Jack Delta?
Really just watching people closely, figuring out what they're going to do so I could figure out just a way to counter it, because I am, the fast, the quickness and everything. And I am like a little bit smaller than some of the guys, except for obviously Atomic Titan.
He's here in the chat, by the way. He will say hello in a few minutes. But yes, Mr. Titan would be an example. Roddy Alpha, when you wrestled him,
Yeah,
that's another example. I mean, there's, a few guys. I guess you and maybe Robbie Andrews. Robbie Andrews might be a little taller than you, not much. But yeah, there's guys that you wrestle and generally you're on the size and a little bit more of maybe smaller. But let me ask you a different question. As we're here with Kaotic of TBW, he is of course a part of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. Please support them. There is links below. Rampage 167 will be coming out here very soon. Go to the TBW Facebook, YouTube, TikTok pages, and Instagram for more information. I am the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice, figuratively and literally, where all wrestling matters. Let me ask you this question. With LaFlame, I get the sense you really can't ask for advice because technically you've got more ring experience than him, and he's more of a, I guess, contemporary. But Jack is a guy that is obviously, I think everybody wants to ask Jack something. Did Jack Delta give you any advice? And if he did, what advice did he get a chance to give you, maybe, that you've gone and used over the past year?
Really, I mean, Jack Delta I'm just going to be honest, but he never really gave me any advice. I mean, we just went out there, done a match.
Had a match?
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Maybe that's the best advice, just to go out there and have a match. I just would have thought maybe as him being a traveler, you got a chance to ask him a few different things on that, and maybe that you would have took away from. But look, everybody's different. Some guys also aren't there. They're wrestling a number of matches, and it's very difficult to communicate with people. And you find a way to kick out there, and it took a lot out of you, but you found a way. And I'm curious on this question. As we can see, it's very hot. And how do you keep up pace wise in a heat versus, let's say, when it's cooler? Because obviously you could see Delta, his offense, and by the way, hell of a move there, hell of a move. But I don't know how you came up with that, but that looked very pretty, by the way. But how do you kind of keep yourself going? I spoke with Jesse Daniels on Tuesday, and he talked about just being hydrated and the importance of that. But
Yeah.
when you're in a match like this and Delta's beating you down physically, how do you stay in the match like you have been?
Really just taking my breaths when I can. I mean, when Delta's not, running at me or throwing me around or putting me down on the ground or whatever, I take my breaths a little bit and here and there, and kind of just it helps me keep my pace. Helps me, yeah.
And I'll tell you what, that was picture perfect, more or less. That was very picture perfect there. I mean, that definitely you would have thought had him. I would have thought had him, but Jack Delta stays in the fight, and you kind of have to keep going at it. Okay, let me ask you then, as we're getting toward the end of the match here shortly, let me ask you this question. And what are your goals for the year coming up? What are your goals, whatever it might be?
If he who shall not be named loses the world title, I won't go after him while he has the title.
So, okay, I'm going to come back to that after the match, because that's something interesting that you said, because there is something I want to talk about, but I want to let the match finish that out. But I mean, definitely you found a way to do some really really cool stuff here in the match. I mean, when it comes to coming up with a lot of these moves, are these things do you think about some of your move set? Do you just go out and do it? I mean, I'd be curious, because you're, again, one of the more high flyers that has come onto the platform. In terms of like what we see you doing off the top rope and some other moves, I mean, is there like a move set you think of, or any inspirations and such?
Really, I have some inspirations, but most of it's like it's a mix of literally everybody. I mean, everybody that I like and stuff. But yeah, I kind of just go out there and do it. I mean, just I have that courage to where I can just go out there and do it and hopefully make it look good and make it actually make sense. Put it that way.
It's a good analogy. That's a good analogy. Yeah, it reminds me so much of playing playground basketball. And Mr. Delta gets the victory. Very hard fought match. Hell of a match. Definitely one of those 2023 match of the year type matches. And Mr. Delta obviously appreciates you. And, I'm going to come back to that in a second. Let me get to another couple of comments. I want to say hello here. Hello there from Roland 20. What's Gucci Thompson and love from Bolt? Oh, the infamous Montana. How you doing, my brother? Good to see you. Yeah, we got to get you back on the platform since you've been here, and I need to make that happen in the next month or so. Let's definitely do something toward the end of the month. How you doing, my friend? I know you've been doing a lot of great things in EBW Pro, and everything else EBW related. Yes, let's definitely. It's been a while. It's been about 5 months or so, five and a half months. So yes, I am very aware of all the great things. Yes, and I definitely love to get you on, and I'll definitely give you a shout out, maybe when I'm off the air, or definitely tomorrow morning. So nice to see you, my friend. Good to see you there. And I am definitely been following what you're up to there. Good stuff there. That was nice. And then speaking of guys that, really have to reevaluate. Now, do you want to say something about this guy, or just because he was trying to be a demon king. He was a hardcore. He was my hardcore king, but he's not a hardcore king anymore. And he had to bow down to Manny Cobra. Or you just want to move on? Just move on to somebody else. Move on to somebody else.
Oh yeah.
Move on to somebody else. All right, fair enough. I always wanted to give you that obviously thing, but I will say I appreciate Mr. Titan because this was his company and I own a portion of it now. So at the very least, I want to say my hardcore king will always be my friend. He will always be a supporter, and just like infamous Montana, everybody that comes onto Sportzwire Radio, and Mr. Montana loves TBW, and he would be an interesting fit in TBW. Mr. Montana, you're in Maryland. What's the travel from Tennessee to Maryland? That's a good question. That would be a good question. Yes, TBW is one of my favorite products, and I'm glad that people like to support TBW, and they're closing in on 8,000 subscribers. So definitely TBW is one of those places. Okay, so you said a couple things that I want to go back to. I know there's a lot of things I could play match-wise, but I realize I've only got so much time with you. And you talked about the World Championship, and you talked about if that person holds that title that shall name nameless. I just want to go back to that because the man that's supposed to get the next shot is Joe Anderson, the Grim Reaper, Joe Anderson. And Joe Anderson seems to have had his most success in a while. But Joe Anderson, do you really think Joe Anderson could beat the man that shall name nameless? What do you think his chances would be? He's the new number one contender.
I mean, yeah, with him being the number one contender, it still doesn't mean anything because, I mean, I've beaten Joe, and so has he who shall not be named. I mean, so has, a bunch of other people. So I think it's really just easy pickings.
So Joe Anderson, should Joe Anderson and Jacob Young, should they just maybe try this little weird dilly-dallying, and maybe they should just find something else with their time? Maybe they could just have like an imaginary wrestling ring and an imaginary wrestling match, and they could go and do this, lingo that they have, and maybe it might work somewhere else, but it's not going to work against that man that shall name nameless. And they still can't figure out the size difference. They wouldn't be able still to come across and be able to compete with all that. And I mean, Joe Anderson has been a world champion though before, but still doesn't mean he can really do it now, basically.
Yeah, he can't hold himself. That's why he's needing the Black Fox or Jacob Anderson or whatever you want to call him.
He's like Madonna, right? He'd like a scorecard to figure out like what's the name, what's the hair look, what's the gimmick, what's the image, What if I were to say to you that let's just say just Jacob, let's just call him just Jacob. What would I just say to you though if Jacob were to come on to Sportswire soon and explain himself on behalf of his, the man that I guess you'd say is Mr. Number One Contender and, Joe Anderson, what would you think? Or he shouldn't bother, basically.
I mean, yeah, he really shouldn't bother. He shouldn't even get on here. He shouldn't even. More than likely, he'll probably call us filthy stains. I mean,
he's been here a few times, and I've seen the deal. Yeah. We'll see about. Good point. Okay, let me get to a few more comments. Infamous Montana would definitely have an open challenge with Jack Delta, which would be interesting because you'd have to now go to. I'll connect you. I'll be happy to connect you off the air. But Jack Delta is no longer in the PWF or TBW. He's in ROVW, which is a little closer to you in Michigan. I can definitely send you their information when we're off the air. And that might be a little closer to you, Maryland to Michigan. And I didn't realize it's that close by plane. But I'll definitely connect you for that for sure. And I don't know why this comes up, but Mr. Titan says he should be next in line. Or just move on, right? Next comment in line, right? Next comment in line.
He lost to Manny Cobra.
But Manny Cobra needed everything he could. I mean, he needed it took his finishing move 4 times to do it, though, to be fair. It wasn't a 30-second match.
But then you got Atomic Titan turned into the Hardcore King, then turned into this Demon Prince.
Well, what did you think about that? Because I will bring it up. What did you think about that? Some were thinking that at least on this platform, that Atomic Titan might have been the greatest hardcore champion in wrestling history. Some were saying his runs were better than Terry Funk and Mick Foley and Tommy Dreamer. Some were saying that Atomic Titan was more hardcore than guys that regularly come on here, like, I don't know, Tarzan Duran, who you saw here on Monday's show, Jesse Daniels, who had a few things to say about Atomic Titan on Tuesday, and Mikey Anarchy, Jimmy Controversy, who's obviously a very good friend to Rezzy, and, all those big hardcore names, all the guys that come on here. And, some were saying that Atomic Titan was more hardcore and a better hardcore representative than those names were. Nah, you didn't think so.
No. No.
Just checking.
I had more of a hardcore match than he's ever had.
I will tell you this much. I have been reminded on this platform, I want to say for probably like 7 or 8 months, to the fact that guys would come on and almost chide the fact that Titan was the hardcore king and he was my hardcore king, but everybody has an opinion. But the facts were, is Atomic Titan did have one of the greatest hardcore championship runs, I would say, in this circuit's history. But Joe Anderson should just give up his spot to the best in TBW. But who is that? Who is the best in TBW right now to get that shot other than Joe Anderson? I don't know. Who is the next in line? I mean, well, you kind of sort of implied that. Want to say hello to my buddy, Mr. John Trucker. I saw John is like me. He's always streaming. I think he and I almost kind of rotate. John does a lot of gaming. He does a lot of game streaming. He's also very adversed in the Maryland underground and backyard wrestling scene. Hope everyone is doing well. Fell asleep 2 matches in tonight. You missed SummerSlam? Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell you what happened at SummerSlam. I would definitely say check it out and watch it. But, it was interesting. I never like to spoil it for people. But I would say watch it. I think the first match was pretty good. I think there was the second match was what it was, and let me know what you think when you watch it. Jay, you ready for this? Now I won't mention that name. But that name that shall name nameless is scared of Mr. Titan because he knows I've beat him before. And I could easily win that world championship. I will be your next TBW world heavyweight champion. I mean, what do you think? Is that imaginary? Is that making you laugh? It's making you laugh, so it's obviously, I don't know what it means.
I think he's a clown.
Why? Why do you think he's a clown for?
You really think Atomic Titan could be he who shall not be named now than what he was before? Because what he was before was weak. This one, he's a little bit stronger. So I mean,
I can look at it and go 2 ways. The first is that, yeah, he lost to C Money, he lost to Andrew Clay. C Money doesn't even work in TBW. I could go with that, but sometimes you could also say conversely, the comeback's greater than what was before, and maybe he'll go on a comeback. But then some would even say, well, he's done that before too, and it didn't work. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, listen, right now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to partially agree with you. I think the name that shall name nameless right now in our circuit is the most dark, the most deadliest, and dangerous champion in our entire circuit. Delta might be on the most, let's say, statistically impressive run based on who he's defeating, but in terms of who's most dark, deadly, and dangerous, it's that name that shall name nameless. And also that name that shall name nameless defeated Mr. Delta for the PWF World Heavyweight Championship, the Uprising Championship. So, there's also that I can also back up for sure. Yes, definitely. I'm going to talk about that probably Friday. I'll definitely talk about that Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern time. And what are you streaming next? What's your next stream that you're streaming on? Are you doing any Madden streams or NCAA Football 25, which I'll watch? Come on. I'm going to segue to this. Come on, Chaos. I'd easily get the job done. We were once brothers in the industry. I want to get to this now in the remaining time that I have with you, because we know you as Chaotic, but you were Chaos once upon a time. And I saw some footage I put up on the screen when you were Chaos. And people seem to be saying over these past few months, who are inside Tennessee Backyard Wrestling and who are fans of Tennessee Backyard Wrestling, that you should wake up. You've been You kind of alluded to it yourself in the way you've been treated and the way you once were to the way you are now. And I mean, do you not see the writing on the wall? Or what do you want to say to the audience about who you once were and who you are now? And what is the identity of you?
Well, chaos is weak, and he's no longer here. He's no longer a part of me. There's no light in me. There's no good in me. There's no more Max Chaos. There's no more Burn It Down, as people would remember.
You would jump
There's
up. You were a high energy. You were an energy guy too. You'd go out there and, you had some almost bass in you, to quote. You had a bass. I wouldn't quite say you had flame, but you were very close in terms of your persona. And, now you're not. You're not.
Yeah, I don't understand why people are getting this delusion that Chaos is still here. He's been gone. Chaotic is all that remains. And Chaotic is here to stay, and he's going to wreak havoc on TBW, just like the prophecy.
But some would say, almost to quote Metallica, the memory will always remain of that individual. That memory will still be a lasting impression in people's minds now.
It can stay in people's minds, but it will never come into the true light. Put it that way.
Do you have any regrets?
No.
No regrets.
Nope.
And why would you say you were weak?
Max Chaos got destroyed week in and week out.
True. You didn't have as much success from a statistical standpoint. That's fair.
And so Max Chaos is just a pipsqueak compared to what I am now.
But some would say you still might be that because you're letting that name that shall name nameless still kind of, I guess, overpower you. We've seen some of the things. You kind of alluded upon it to itself. Is there a confusion right now? Is there a confusion either with you within the prophecy or just from the people? Is there something of a confusion or no?
I'll just say a little. That's all I can say to it.
Okay. Well, let me get to Mr. Titan because he would like to say something.
Oh my goodness.
He does kind of say, I think somebody stole my notes. This is ridiculous because that false prophet changed your name to his liking. I mean, you are a different name.
Yeah, but it don't matter.
Why? Why doesn't it matter?
Because I'm still the destructive kind. I'm still, the hellish kind that TBW hasn't seen in God knows how long.
They haven't seen what you're about to do, basically.
Yes.
And what you're about to do, a lot of people will say that kind of what I talked about was that you were this workhorse, you were this guy, and really that's why whatever you do, we need to stay tuned and find out. Is that kind of what I'm kind of getting at?
Yes.
But certainly somebody is kind of picking at scabs, maybe. You ever heard the old expression, picking at the scabs? And he says that you drunk his voodoo juice.
I didn't drink his voodoo juice.
And James Taylor's even going in about it. A man you wrestled once upon a time. You wrestled James Taylor, the nemesis. And he says, bring it up. Bring up the past. Bring up the identity. And he's obviously had his battles once upon a time when he worked in this promotion. And I kind of alluded to it. There is the footsteps. I mean, but are people confused? I mean, you're telling me that you were weak once upon a time, but are you still weak now?
Wouldn't say ring wise I'm weak.
Well, that's a different.
More.
I think your ability in the ring is a totally different
Yeah,
conversation.
it's,
From an out of character standpoint, your ring work. I said it throughout the entire show tonight. You're probably wrestled, if not but the second most matches in TBW this year. That their ring work, nobody's taking away ring ability, but in terms of just, it looks like that you've either been pushed around this season or you've basically been ordered to do everything. And even when you do something, it's not enough. It's not good enough.
yep, exactly. I mean, I got ordered to take out Andrew Clay, done that, and then still, got pushed around, still got him straight in my face screaming at me. And it's just, yeah.
Maybe that's a sign that nothing will ever be good enough. Maybe that's a sign that no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, that it's just never going to be what you'll expect it to be, or just what
Yeah.
it should be, more or less.
Yeah, I'll consider myself like the black sheep of the family.
But the black sheep of the family usually means that part of the family really doesn't belong. It kind of, there's signs that kind of what you did, more or less, was walk out afterwards. And let me ask you something. There's somebody that, for whatever reason, wants to pop on for a minute that you actually just beat up not too long ago, who's in your promotion. And for whatever reason, they seem like that they want to have a word with you. Now, this is somebody that actually, I think we kind of mentioned at the top of the show. Now, I know obviously you're a very personal man. You're obviously a very, reflective. Would you want me to bring that person on just for a few minutes? Because they obviously, I guess, want to try to, well, let's just say, stay trendy with you, or try to, maybe level with you as a trendsetter. But maybe I should tell that person to stay in ER, or, stay in, because I'm getting a lot of comments now. Now it seems like people are starting to, they seem to want to be in the conversation with you much more. But it's up to you. I obviously will see what that person feels. While we wait for that, I do have a lot more comments, and it seems interesting. Imagine Atomic Titan being forced in a group, not as the leader, and being brainwashed. Yeah, not me, because I would have fought harder than you would have ever to get yourself back. Interesting. And also, James Taylor wants to say, fun fact, I have beaten almost every member of the Prophecy, including his so-called father. Yes, he did. He did do that. He did do that. And hello to my friend Ashley D, who used to be Trinity Parker in XPW, but she's now just Ashley. And how you doing, Ashley? Nice to see you. Maybe James Taylor should make a call to Joshua Allen. That's up to James Taylor to do. Does James Taylor want to call Joshua Allen? Does he need Joshua Allen's phone number? But I get to one more comment. You have to bite the hand that feeds, Kaotic. You'll find a hand with a better quality of feed, and they'll be impressed with the sharpness of your teeth. You have sharp teeth?
I'd say so, yeah.
I bet you do. But there's apparently somebody that we're going to find out if they have sharp teeth for a few minutes before we sign off for the evening, because apparently they want to say something, and I don't know why they want to, but apparently he is alive. He is apparently out of ER. He has gotten up, and his name is Mr. 999, Mr. Preachy himself. Preachy Alan Michaels, the trendsetter, my buddy, who's always staying trendy. Alan, I really thought you were in a medically induced coma as to why you weren't here on Sportswire Radio last night, and I'm skeptical as to why you'd want to say hello to Mr. Kaotic, especially after the advice even he gave you. So what brings you here other than maybe to give us last words and last rites, or maybe tell us that your TBW career is over, you're going back to NFL picks, you're going back to streaming on Twitch for NCAA 25, because after what Beast and Jay Wild have done to you, especially at Rebellion, that you've now decided to formally announce your retirement, maybe put your name in the running for taking over for me on Sportswire Radio. You're actually on mute. Now, I guess Jay Wild has definitely played with the audio. Maybe this is another sign here. Let's see now, Alan. Has Jay Wild now played with your audio? Because it looks like it is here. Alan Michaels, we are trying to stay. I guess Jay Wild has definitely played with the audio here. Boy, I think though, if Kaotic, you were right actually. You know what? You are technically still a prophet because after all, I mean, Alan's having technical difficulties here. I guess this was a sign after all. Don't go down that Cooper route. Beast even said it here. Beast said it when he was here on Sportswire a month and a half ago. Alan Michaels, I don't hear you. You're on mute. Let me try to unmute you. Nope, you're actually okay. Alan Michaels.
Am I good now?
You're good now. It looks to me as if Beast and Jay Wild have not played with that audio. You are here. You are back. I'm glad you're alive. And tell us why you're here.
You see, I just want to pop on here. I want to say congratulations to the prophet Jay Wild. I took him to his absolute most. He took me to my absolute most, and he was the better man at Rebellion. And I give him props to that. But what I can't overlook is someone who gave their all in battle and is going to sit there and accost them after the match, slapping me in the face repeatedly, stomping on the limbs I had, knowing that I had 0% left in the tank. But you're still going to come down there off of his words. See, Kaotic, this is what I want to ask you. Would you have came down there and did the exact same thing if he didn't tell you to?
Yeah.
I don't believe that. Because when I first came to TBW in that ladder match, I had the privilege of getting to talk to and work with Max Chaos. And from what I remember, Max Chaos was a good guy, kind-hearted guy. I'll give you the shirt off his back. That's not who Kaotic is, though.
Why do y'all still have this delusion that Max Chaos is still here? He's not. Max Chaos is gone. I've said this numerous times here.
Max Chaos is right where that A on your chest is.
No.
Hopefully they
somewhere
have a good
deep in
season.
there.
Hopefully they have a good season. Well, not for you, Alan, because you're a Wisconsin fan, but I won't talk about that tonight.
My heart and soul is pitch black, as black as your room right now on your camera. That's how pitch black my heart and my soul is. There is no light. There's no good. There's no Jesus in me. So everyone can quit.
Well, listen, I also want to pop on here and just tell y'all that, you got me pretty good at Rebellion. But
I played the video. I can bring the video back up if you want.
Oh, there's no need. I remember every single thing that happened in that match.
If you want to watch him getting his ass stomped in, go right ahead.
Oh, we can also pull up the pop-up powerbomb that I gave your dad. He had to roll out the ring with.
That's true too. I
digress.
could do that.
Oh, and then we can also pop up.
I actually forwarded just to the. Actually, you're probably going to be very mad at me. You're going to kill me on Friday's show. I actually forwarded to the Choke Slam.
We can also pop up.
But speaking of people, I actually have another person that wants to say something to you within TBW.
Oh,
another person. Now, would you like me to bring them on? It's not the name that shall name nameless.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, one. I know you. Do I know you?
Yeah, I'm sure everybody.
Hi, how are you? Happy trails.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something to both of them.
Before you say anything, are you Atomic Titan, the Demon Prince, or the Hardcore King? Which one?
Pretty much myself. I mean, what do you think?
Drum roll, please. That was funny.
No, I have something to say to both of you.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm listening to both of them speak. And Alan Michaels wants to complain about being smacked in the face, but did he ever think for 1 minute that maybe he deserves that?
Beast did say that. Beast was on here weeks ago and said this was coming. After you pinned Jay Wild, they said they were going to make you remember this. And you were Alan, you were definitely staying trendy. You were definitely very, let's just say, Alan-like when it came to dealing with the prophecy. And, they spit, what was that, mist in the face, and they did what they did to you at Rebellion. Alan, I would have loved, by the way, it would be good for Sportswire if we had won the world title. I don't get the business of that, but it would have been really great for you to win the title. But they definitely did make an example of you. And they did tell you not to go down the Cooper route. And you went down
listen, this is the best thing I can say to the prophecy. I don't have it in my heart to hate. I don't have it in my heart to hold on to things.
You're a Jesus-loving man after all, Alan. Who would have guessed?
What I can say is, I forgive you, Kaotic.
Really? Whoa. You forgive him?
I forgive him, but I'll never forget.
But why forgive him? Why? He nearly killed you. Those men. Listen, I even said it. That attack, to be honest, that attack was too far. That attack, I got to be honest, you lost the match. That choke slam from the top rope, it was over. There wasn't no need to. You didn't deserve that. No man deserves that beating.
I didn't. But guess what? The best thing about it, Tom.
Yes, sir.
We still have so much left in the season. And I still have
We're halfway
so
through.
much
I mentioned
left
it. We're halfway through the season. We're halfway through. Got a lot of season left.
Well, listen, I'm not done with the prophecy. Whether they want to believe me or not.
Are you sure?
Hey, you can knock me down, my mystique getting back up.
Michaels,
have you not learned anything?
Why?
By the way, can I just say one thing on Mr. Titan? I missed the mustache.
No. Can you look?
Why did you put your foot into he who shall not be named in Cooper's business?
Listen, they wanted to come on my talk show. Things wanted to get rowdy. A match got set up. And guess what? Cooper didn't get the pin on him. I did. Yours truly. With the kneecap to the chrome dome. It's a 1, 2, 3. And guess what? I was going to leave it alone. But guess what? He won the title. I got something to say about it.
Okay, fair. But after what Cooper went through, I mean, that attack that Cooper felt, I mean, we spoke about that at Anniversary. That was, Beast basically said the advice for Cooper was not to show up. And you're in the same position Cooper was.
Well, guess what? You got to stand up for your boys, man. If you don't stand up for your boys, then who are you?
Well, what about being clever and smart, thinking, well, the tea leaves show that these guys are big and they're big bad.
Hey, I think with my heart, man, if my boys are out there getting attacked, I'm going to go out there and help them 10 times out of 10. I stand 10 toes behind mine.
Cooper is a good friend of yours. He has been a good friend. There's a lot of comments here, which I now see that the peanut gallery has arrived. Also here, where am I here? Oh, not Alan Michaels. Wow, losers. I know I'm late, but this has been an interesting night. Yeah, it was interesting. Very interesting here on Sportswire. Interesting in WWE.
Hey, Atomic Titan's profile picture is a little bit outdated, I think, if you want to pop that back up there. Yeah, it's kind of outdated.
Hey, well, listen. Maybe he's got to work on the picture. Maybe that's.
Look,
you'll have to find out. I mean, listen,
I think
just
you're
living
a
in the
little
past.
bit. I think you're an idiot because you want to sit here and say that you forgive easily. Have you not learned anything?
I gotta say,
have I ever forgave anybody? No.
That's a good line because in this sport we really don't forgive people after, especially what you went through. Alan, you could have been in a coma right now. I mean, your other half would have been like, "Where's Alan? Where is he?"
You see, I can stay mad and I can be vengeful and I can do all these things, but where is that really going to end me up?
Well, is it trendy? But is it trendy to forgive?
It is trendy to forgive, Tom. It is. It's trendy to keep your mind at ease. Because I know in Kaotic's mind, there's no ease.
Is your mind at ease right now after everything you've went through?
I can say that I gave it 110% in that match, and I would not do anything differently besides maybe try to pin him a little bit quicker.
I will say that you had him on at least like 3 occasions. I mean, you were right there. I mean, listen, I'll say it because with me, I say the same thing on and off the air. You and I spoke after the match. I watched the match after I got off the air, and I said, you definitely showed that you're a worthy world champion. You showed you're a worthy main event caliber wrestler. You were right there with the most darkest, deadliest, dangerous champion in our circuit right now. In our circuit. I mean, Jack Delta even lost to Jay Wild. The man that shall name nameless. Cover your ears, Mr. Chaotic. But the point is that you hung in there, but in the record books show that you came up short. But speaking of people that want to say something before we move on for the show, speaking of people, this whole family is downright disgusting and disturbing. And second Titan, I'd be the one to give advice after losing your crown in the form of the hardcore champion.
Look, at least I gave Manny Cobra the respect. Something I haven't done.
And I want to say, speaking of people that I do bow down to, literally, Big Man Cam. He's literally, everybody would bow down to him. He's like 6'17". He says, just hello to Sportswire, because there's a big crowd of us. And yes.
But look, to both of you, and you can tell your father, my goal next is to be the TBW World Heavyweight Champion. And it don't matter who I have to go through.
All right. Mr. Chaotic, I realize that you don't want to talk much further, but I want to ask you one question. This might be a very sensitive question. And you two gentlemen might be like, Tom, this is about to be a dark comment. It's uncharted. But Mr. Chaotic, do you love your father?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
You do. Has he been a good father?
Glazing. Sorry.
Thank you, Alan, for the kind words. We can move on. We can move on.
Of course.
Mr. Hardcore would like to say, everyone, ignore everyone chaotic. Embrace the darkness. It'll take you places you never thought you'd go, and it's always exciting. So, But Mr. Hardcore knows. I mean, he's had some of the best in this circuit, period, right now.
The darkness will always turn back to the light. Look at Darth Vader, man. Look at Darth Vader.
But darkness is power. Darkness will give you everything that you want in life. You see, with you being a Jesus freak, you have to sit there and wait for miracles to happen. But you see, you ain't going to get your miracle, and you ain't going to be the new TBW World Heavyweight Champion anytime soon. Because you say that you forgive, but I will do that shit 100 times over and over again. So if you want to keep forgiving me, I'll just keep kicking your ass.
Oh, you know what? Ladies and gentlemen, this is why you need to go to YouTube. TBW 2017. Go and check them out. You want to rewatch Rebellion? You want to go back and watch past shows? There's also another TBW YouTube page that they're also working on. We're going to see some other stuff that comes out in the future. But TikTok, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. Instagram, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. Facebook, Tennessee Backyard Wrestling. I cannot wait for episode 167. It's going to be coming up here very, very soon. You won't want to miss it. And if you want to buy some merchandise like me, even if it's merchandise that, the prophecy has, or I have my Atomic Titan shirt. It might be not in style anymore. Maybe, Alan, I'm not trendy anymore with that. But you want to buy merchandise, I'm going to put that up here right on the screen before we get to final thoughts. Go out there and do it, because the best way you can support your favorite stars, your favorite companies, is buy merch. Buy the apparel so you can look a lot better than me and certainly look more cooler, just as cool as these guys.
Come on, Tom.
Yes,
why do you not have a prophecy shirt?
Because I didn't get it. I have an answer for that. I didn't get it yet because I have my TBW shirt, I have my Atomic Titan shirt, and I promised Alan Michaels one. So I tell you what, I will make sure my next
losers over the people that is running TBW.
Well, I got the regular. The TBW logo. You can't go wrong with the TBW logo. I mean, what are you going to say? You don't have a TBW logo shirt? What's wrong with the TBW logo? Does anybody have a problem? No, seriously, raise your hand out there if you have a problem with the TBW logo shirt. You do what? What's wrong with the TBW logo?
Like I said, you don't have a prophecy shirt.
But okay, but you haven't given me a chance to buy one yet. Well, in fact, I'm going to tell you right now how you can buy a TBW shirt. If you'd like, I can actually do that right now for you because guess what? I have a way that you can basically put it on the record to buy some TBW merchandise. And I'll have one more surprise for you, gentlemen, before we sign off. But before I get to that surprise, yes, you can buy merchandise. There's plenty of ways to buy merchandise, and you can buy it right through here. Look at all the shirts. I got one there. I got one there. How about this one here? Now, how about this shirt? Is this shirt a little bit more amendable?
Looks like toilet paper.
No, it's not.
I'm just kidding.
I might own that shirt by next month.
Yeah, that's good.
You know what? I'm going to break the fourth wall. I'm going to make you all laugh for a second. Every time I get one of these shirts, you know what? The first thing I think of is I kind of compare each one and do they smell differently? Because all these shirts, when you get them, at this point, I think I have like 50 wrestling shirts at this point. I'm sure I have more wrestling shirts than you gentlemen by now. And the first thing I think of, boy, do they smell differently? Because they have this like straight out of like, I guess the printing. I don't know how they create these shirts, but they all seem to have that new wrestling scent. But if you want that new wrestling scent, go get and by the way, $16 right now. So you got a 40% discount. Go out there. Listen, I got mine. I think Alan, I got your shirt for $19.99. I think yours I paid the most for, like $27.99, but that's okay. Nobody's certainly sweating my pocketbook, but you want to buy some merchandise. There's plenty of different shirts out there. You want to get a Gage Flair shirt. You want to get I forgot. I have 4 TBW shirts. I have the old backyard wrestling shirt. So, boy, how many non-TBW fans have as many shirts as I do? Let's certainly somebody tell me in the chat. But there's a lot of them. You want to go buy them. I don't know why anybody would buy a Johnny J shirt. Well, how about a Johnny J shirt? Yeah. Well, actually, Johnny J has been kind of silenced at this point. But, okay, let me bring on this person before we say sayonara. He wants to say something. I think if you're a fan of this platform and a fan of TBW, you know who it is. And it's not Manny Cobra. It's not Russell Cooper. It's the boss.
Oh, God. Asking you. Okay, so I've been sitting here listening to this for an hour. What? Hour? Hey, Tom. So I've been listening to this bickering for about an hour or so and a half.
Yeah, pretty much an hour and 20 minutes.
And I'm going to set this straight. Listen, Kaotic, you had the gall to mention, without your father's approval, you had the gall to mention that you and your quote-unquote family run the show. Well, I'm going to set the record straight. Y'all don't run the show. I run the show. Okay? And furthermore, what's that old cliche, Tom? You know, the belt doesn't make the man makes the belt.
Yeah, it's
that old cliche.
The man that makes the champ. They're not the championship doesn't make the man. It's the man. Yes.
And you know, I've noticed out of every person that has held the championship over the years, Kennedy has been a thing. This, by far, is downright disturbing. It is disturbing.
You know, and I can say that. Listen, we've had this is uncharted territory in TBW history. I think it was even said during the telecast that we've never seen anything like this. I think we got this at the end of anniversary. We got the opening after anniversary, and then to end the show, you know, the announce team said basically, Troy and Roger said that this has never been anything, you know, Josh and Roger said this has never been anything we've seen before. And it's true.
You know, I've seen some stuff at TW like with the
this circuit, I'll say it, Mr. Allen. I watch a lot of wrestling, as I'm sure some people may or may not know. I don't think I've seen anything right now in the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit as dark, as deadly, dangerous, and uncharted as I see right now in the prophecy.
I'm gonna call like I see it. It's a cult. It's a cult.
Well, you can say that and get away with it.
Do I like it? Do I?
Bossman, whatever you want to call yourself, what? Big dog.
Going back there.
You can be the owner of TBW, but you won't even step foot up against the prophecy. you have to stand at least 10 feet away from us. You won't even be face to face to us. So you think that you can stop what's coming? I mean, you couldn't stop us coming out and kicking Alan Michaels' ass after, he who shall not be named just done.
Why don't you just say his name?
Look.
Say his name and he'll appear. That's why. He doesn't want him to appear like Joe Hendry. That's why.
All right. Okay. So ever since this whole reign of your quote unquote father, who should not be named, has started. I mean, y'all have went through Cooper, y'all have went through Michaels up there, and
Let's bring up some D'Angelo the Flame. Let's bring up Roddy Alpha.
Roddy Alpha.
Yeah, let's bring up some people that we have just ran through and are still going to run through because.
And Gage Flair, by the way, Gage Flair had faced what we saw with the hands of the prophecy. And I mean, Joe Anderson, I mean, the case was made that Joe Anderson, he shouldn't even bother. I mean, he should just, figure out whatever Jacob's name is now. And he'll be here on Sportswire, I think, next week. And I'm sure I'll get a different side of the story, but who knows?
We are the most dominant force in TVW. We are the big change that TVW needed because, as you see, Atomic Titan over here, weak. I mean, he bowed down to.
But he was the greatest hardcore champion, some would say, in history, bigger than Terry Funk.
But you're going to say that he's the greatest hardcore champion, but yet he can bring up somebody's daughter and everything that's happened to a person, but then after give him respect. See, prophecy does not give respect. Respect is given to us.
Respect earned. That's what they call it.
We don't have to earn it.
But I'm confused here, and because I go back to it, and we're here for a few moments. Obviously, we're here with Alan Michaels, Joshua Allen, the owner of TBW, my former hardcore king, Atomic Titan, and Kaotic, who I think is in the prophecy, and I think he's talking about a name that shall name nameless. I am the Reverend Tom Bryce, but I'm confused because you talk about the prophecy, but you won't mention the name that shall name nameless, and the audience seems to be confused. We talked about the name change. We talked about what you've went through, and I think I'm even more confused tonight. I think I'm going to walk away in a few minutes, Mr. Kaotic, and I mean, I like you. I like what you do in the ring. I got a chance to go back and watch what you did to LaFlame. I got a chance to watch what you did to Delta. I saw what you did with Roddy Alpha. I saw the matches you had with Cooper this year and Flair and Andrew Clay. But I'm confused. I'm going to walk away more confused than I was an hour and a half ago. I think that's what people think. I don't know. Mr. Allen, you want to say something before we move on?
Well, I mean, here's my question. I mean, this is towards Kaotic. I mean, how much more are you going to take? How much more? I mean,
that's a good point.
Let's talk real for a second. How much more are you going to take? I mean, you were one of the sons, along with Hex, the cursed sons. Then you got the caretaker. Then you got the princess. But here's my thing. Earlier in this program, you said it's like every time Beast does something, it's brushed aside. Every time Jigs do something, it's brushed aside. Hex, but you, out of all the ones that get singled out, it's always you. Now, what you would think you would have enough of it, but you keep falling under the same BS that my brother went through. He finally got out of that mumbo jumbo bullcrap. Why can't you? That's my question.
Maybe I don't want to.
Stockholm.
Okay, so you'd rather be a lap dog for J-Ball. Okay, fine, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, that's.
Yeah, I'll listen, Mr. Allen. I'm confused. I've heard one thing. I've heard another thing. I guess the only other thing I can say is we have to watch Rampage 167 to find out more. And go to TBW 2017 on YouTube. Go to Tennessee Backyard Wrestling on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and we'll have to find out if Alan Michaels is going to show up again in TBW. We'll find out what the future is of my former Hardcore King. And Mr. Allen, you really have your hands full, is all I could say. I thought my hands. Listen, Mr. Allen, I thought my hands were full with every night being on Sportswire with who comes on this platform, but I think your job, I think you have a tougher job than President Biden does right now with your roster, with everything. You got a real tough job right now, Mr. Allen. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you're going to have to figure it out at 167. That's all I can say.
Well, speaking of that, speaking of 167, I got two major announcements that I'm going to give out. All 167.
I'll put it out on social media. My TikTok following is growing, by the way.
Yeah, and as speaking of what you just said a minute ago, I got to deal with this group. I got to deal with what happened to Titan. I got to deal with a lot of things going on in the company, and I'll manage one way or another. I'll manage, but the 167, I have two blockbuster announcements. I hope everybody will tune in and listen in, and both of them I can guarantee is going to be great.
And what are these announcements? Because don't you have to run that through, the World Heavyweight Champion?
Oh,
no. Why the hell would I tell you and your family?
Because, boss man, we run the place.
I don't see. Last time I checked, I didn't see Jay Wild or your name or anybody else's name on the board of directors, so I don't think so. So everybody else, you got to find out what it is.
We're running your show as it is right now.
You're running it all right.
I'm confused. I'm more confused by the second at this point. I've heard Kaotic say one thing and another thing, and I don't know how you do. I really thought my job was tough in dealing with Xavier Thorns of the world, Craven Rages, and all these other people that come on here. But you've really got. You got the whole situation with Jay Kloss and Gage Flair and Robbie Andrews.
That too, yeah.
Oh my goodness! I don't think I've ever seen a match like that where, Jay Kloss was basically beating both guys up and then decides to count the three and then beats Johnny J up with him. I don't know how you're going to do this. Whatever it is, I just want people to tune in and go watch Tennessee Backyard Wrestling Rampage 167 and find out the fallout from Rebellion is all I could say.
Exactly, man. Trust me, it's the way this is looking. It's gonna be a fallout, that's for sure. Because I just, it's gonna be a lot on the plate. And like I said, I'm gonna manage it the best I can do. And everybody, coming very soon at 167, the aftermath of Rebellion, and it's gonna be something. I can guarantee that.
I can't wait for it. I want everybody to go please support TBW. There is links below. I think I've got the whole point of the conversation.
Thursday, 7 p.m.
What time?
Thursday, 7 p.m.
The usual, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And the good news is that we on Sportswire will watch the show first, and then I think I have a segment live with somebody, but they're going to have to wait until I get a chance to watch TBW episode 167, because that way it gives me an opportunity to watch what happened in real time. Plus, I want to see if Alan Michaels actually shows up on Thursday. But, you want to say anything, Alan, before we say sayonara? I'll let you say a final word, because I think Mr. Kaotic, he's not saying anything anymore. You want to say anything else, Alan, before I let you go and let everybody else go, and we'll have to tune in Thursday?
Gotcha. No, I'll definitely 100% be there on Thursday.
Oh, yeah.
100%. And I'm looking forward to, at some point, giving Kaotic the trendy trigger, right? In that 5 out of 10 face of yours. Yeah, 5 out of 10.
All right, I got two more funny questions. Alan, first of all, don't you think we should have a match between Kaotic and Alexander and Rezzy to decide who's got the best flow in the backyard in the underground wrestling circuit? No, Alan. Okay, and then how do you like the shirt tonight, by the way? How do you like the shirt?
Oh, it's wonderful, fantastic.
Like it?
It's definitely trendy.
For once, I'm actually trendy. Mr. Hardcore has one more thing. Zilla had a whole bunch of comments. She said she loves Joshua Allen. She loves Kaotic. She forgives the prophecy for what they did to Alan Michaels, but loves Kaotic.
Talking about
It's Zilla, and loves Joshua Allen and loves Big Man Cam, who Big Man Cam was here, but was not here physically. I don't know. Zilla. Chaotic, do the golden rule. Do what thou want. Follow the lead of a legend by the name of Aleister Crowley. Boy, we'll have to find out. I'm sure Jay Wild is definitely a fan of that, but we won't mention his name because cover your ears. I think I've got the point. I think you have to tune into 167. I'm looking forward to seeing it 8 o'clock Eastern Time, TBW 2017 on YouTube. And by the way, TBW, the only backyard underground wrestling company in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame for good reason. Last show, 2,000 plus views. Anniversary, the greatest show in the history of the backyard and the wrestling circuit, 4,100 views and counting. We can keep going, but the point is, TBW is the motherlode of our circuit right now. And I couldn't be with 4 better people right now from TBW than my buddy Alan Michaels, who, by the way, I am wearing his shirt. Mr. Joshua Allen, the owner and founder of TBW, the man that is the true definition of a small business American dream success story. As I continue to say, Atomic Titan, who once was my hardcore king. I guess we'll have to find out what he is if he shows up on Thursday. I'm sure he will. And Mr. Kaotic, who used to be chaos, but he definitely was very chaotic tonight on Sportswire. He proved to be all of that and some. Fellas, I want to thank you as always. Alan, I know I'm going to see you Friday at 10. Should you be alive after what happens on Thursday's show? If you're alive, I guess you'll let us know. And maybe I'll put the shirt back on again. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I'll see everybody tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern Time with Andre Anomaly, the future Atlanta Pro Wrestling Worldwide Universal Champion. And hopefully he is a little bit more kinder to me than Mr. Chaotic was. But we'll see what happens. But my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice, figuratively and literally, where all wrestling matters. If you're on Sportswire Radio, you're going to go back to your regular scheduled programming. And I want to thank everybody here for tuning in. If you haven't yet, hit the sub button for me. I'm on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579. I'm closing in on 1,000 subs. And if I hit 1,000 subs, you guys control the platform, and you get to come on here and roast me like Tom Brady. I know Alan's been dying to roast me for like 9 months now, so he wants to be there for that day. So if you want to roast me, I'm like 170-something subscribers away, so I'm almost there. You get there by telling your friends, and also hit the sub button for TBW. They're trying to get to 8,000 subs, and they're going to get to 10,000 subs. So we'll certainly see everybody soon. Thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. On the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters. Good night, everybody, and I'll see everybody Thursday at 8 for Rampage.